Hi, I'm the Rules Lawyer, and this video is to give an overview of character creation in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And Pathfinder 2nd Edition is pretty well known for allowing you to make very unique, detailed characters, and it also has a reputation for being complex. And so some may find the prospect of making their own character in the system overwhelming. And there are people who give advice, such as going to Path Builder or Wanderer's Guide, but without any guidance, those online tools, while very useful, could be overwhelming if you don't have a basic overview of what you're doing. And so that's the purpose of this video. I'm Ronald. I am a lawyer, and I have 10 years of experience so far teaching and running tabletop role-playing games with kids. And please subscribe to this channel. I think that my experience teaching can be very useful to others, and please share this video to people who are new to the edition. So the first thing I want to do is go over some don'ts. There are 3 of them. First, don't start at a level higher than level 1. There's an assumption that comes from other editions that early levels are deadly, or that your characters are too simple and not interesting. And that's not true in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You have a whole suite of abilities that you can use. Many of them are not even from your class, but are available to all characters. And you should start at level 1, especially if you come from another edition, because you may come in with some assumptions that are not true in this edition and find actually you want to make a different character or have a different set of skills. The second thing is start with a concept of your character before jumping in. There are many options, and when you make your character, there's a lot of decision points, and at each decision point there are many. For example, there are ancestries that have 10 feats you can choose at level 1. You don't want to be overwhelmed unless you really love poring through options and getting inspiration from those options. But you usually want to start with a concept that inspires you, that makes you interested in being that character, and go from there. And you can always revise that concept later. And the last don't that I would give is kind of related, which is don't worry about optimizing your character. Other editions often punish you if you pick options that are more flavorful or interesting, and it's possible, especially in Pathfinder 1st Edition, to make your character that way and then come to a table next to somebody who is a veteran of the system and find that when a combat happens, you vastly underperform and are not contributing as much. And that's also true to some extent in D&D 5th Edition. Pathfinder 2nd Edition has succeeded at making it so that you can focus on expressing your concept while not deviating far from where your other party members are at. So what we'll do is give an overview of the character creation process, what the steps are. So really quick, there's a few options for character sheets, and this is the official character sheet. It's visually pretty busy, and the advantage of it is that it has a box for everything, and it's useful beyond first level. Though it's not what I would prefer with a new player. If I were to sit down with a new player, I probably would be using this to make a character with them. It's very clean and highlights. You can find easily what is most important for your character, and this is made by Pixel Patch. However, for today's purposes, because I'm going to go in some detail breaking down how character creation works, I will be using Justin's character sheet. So these will all have links in the video description. So here's an outline of the steps in making a character. This is a riff off of what Paizo describes as the ABCs of character creation. First, start with the concept, then you pick your ancestry, then your background, then your class, so it's the early life of your character, and then finalizing your ability scores, equipment, and filling the rest. With the concept, it may be useful to look at this very nice spread that is in the core rulebook on pages 22 and 23 that shows all of the core ancestries and the 12 classes that are in the core rulebook. Now, the Archives of Nethys, all of the rules for Pathfinder are free and available online, and the Archives of Nethys has them all there, and you can Google pretty much any rules element you want by typing 2E and what you're looking for in Google. And there is advantages to going through an online database to find things. Though there may be, if you don't want to be overwhelmed by options, you may want to stick to the physical book, however. And there are also nice visual cues as to organize the information, as you can see here. So the first thing is, let's say you have a character concept. A lot of my students really like to be goblins. So let's say our concept is someone who used to live with goblins, but now wants to join our adventurers. Those of you who have seen my first video remember some goblins fighting the heroes Valeros and Mauricio, a fighter and a rogue. Now, perhaps that tribe was divided, and some of them turned out to want to help the heroes, and this is that character. There is a god that also is about fire, and goblins love fire, and also about redemption. So it fits in with the idea of a goblin joining human society. So that's our idea, and we have a picture, which is often good inspiration for this, of POOG, our character to be. So I should begin by giving an overview of how ability scores are generated in Pathfinder 2E. Unlike most other fantasy systems, you don't roll your stats under the standard method. You start with a 10 representing average ability in all of your ability scores, and add or subtract to those scores as you go through the steps of character creation. So we will be filling out this chart as we go. So the first step is Ancestry. We are going to choose Goblin. So if you Google Goblin, 2E Goblin, it'll take you to the Goblin. And you'll want to go under Ancestry Mechanics, the Goblin Mechanics section. Then you'll see that you'll get ability boosts here in Dexterity and Charisma. So I'm going to put plus signs here to indicate that you are getting boosts there. You also get an ability flaw in Wisdom. Now, some of you who know D&D derived games will know that given that this character will be a cleric, this may not be a good idea. But as I said, you can actually do completely fine with a goblin as a cleric in this system. You can actually still get a maximum score of 18 with a goblin. And the way you do that is we also get this free ability boost. We're going to put that in Wisdom. You also have the option in Pathfinder 2E of taking 2 ability flaws in exchange for 1 ability boost. So we are going to put flaws in Constitution and Intelligence and put a boost in Wisdom. And I'm not going to change these scores yet because we're going to go through the process and then add all the pluses and minuses. But as you can see, the net result is that Wisdom is now a boost. And the way voluntary flaws work, basically it boils down to the fact that you cannot lower a score below 8 or have more than one flaw, and you cannot raise a score above 12 or have the total of 2 boosts. The next thing we'll do is taking our character sheet, we're going to put everything in the goblin mechanics section in the appropriate space. Hit points. You get hit points from your ancestry. We're not going to put it in the final space yet because we're going to add hit points from the class later. Then your size, then your speed, then your languages, and it says that you will get additional languages if you have an intelligence bonus. Because our ability scores are not finalized yet, we'll return to that. And then some special ability from your ancestry. And all goblins have dark vision. So I've added them to the sheet, and I'm also going to add his name, which is POOG. Now, before I forget, I should say a couple of things, particularly if you come from D&D 5th edition, this will be important. Specializing in dexterity will not give you extra damage with dexterity or finesse weapons. To get extra damage, you would want to put points in strength. Now, there's one exception, which is to be a thief rogue. I just want to mention that off the bat. Also, intelligence has an importance in in Pathfinder 2nd edition that does not in 5th edition, which is that it lets you have more skills at first level. So, the next thing is we go to heritage. They are akin to sub-races from 5th edition. Your heritage is something that will give them a special ability. And looking at this list, which is a somewhat smaller list in the core rulebook, we'll see that the Charhide Goblin fits our concept. This is someone with thicker skin who gets fire resistance and also recovers from being on fire more easily. So we'll choose that. It should be noted too that your heritage can also be a versatile heritage. You have the option of being part Asimar, so having angel in your blood, or tiefling. There are a number of Dhampir, which are like vampires. You're able to combine ancestry concepts together in Pathfinder, which is great. To further customize our character, you get a feat at first level. Now, I want to point out that not only do you get feats at first level from your ancestry, you also get them at higher levels. As you can see from this character sheet, you can get ancestry feats at 5th level, 9th, 13th, and 17th as you level up. And when we look at the list of goblin feats, there is actually something that is fire-themed. However, we actually like this, the Goblin Song feat. The Goblin Song lets you sing annoying songs and distract your foes with silly and repetitive lyrics. Now, this was not in our original concept, but this sounded fun. This symbol is an action symbol. There will be multiple symbols if doing something requires more than one action. So this entire block of text defines an ability that you can use. So if you were on a written character sheet, you would write Goblin Song and write the page reference here so that you can refer to it in your core rulebook. We're now done with Ancestry and can now move on to your character's background. Your background is what your character did before becoming an adventurer. And having your concept will help narrow down the long list of available backgrounds in Pathfinder. The core rulebook has a shorter list than Archive of Nethys. In our case, POOG, in addition to singing goblin songs, generally likes to entertain crowds. So we see that there is something called an entertainer. So this is an easy choice. They get to be proficient. They get 2 ability boosts. One boost is going to be in dexterity or charisma. So we're going to put that in dexterity. And the second is a free ability boost. In general, in your first with your first Pathfinder character, you'll want to get an 18 or the highest possible score in your class's key ability. Then you get trained in the performance skill, which is on our character sheet. And there are 4 levels of proficiency in Pathfinder. First there's trained, then expert, then master, then legendary. And you cannot get skills up to expert until 3rd level. And so that is something to look forward in the future, not yet at level 1. Then you get training in a specific lore skill, which in this case is theater lore. So this is a field of knowledge. Then you get the fascinating performance skill feat. Skill feats unlock extraordinary things you can do with a skill. So you'd write that in the appropriate place on your character sheet. Next, we move on to class. We are going to be a cleric. So this is better laid out in the core rulebook, but the first thing you want to do is add your key ability boost, which in this case is wisdom. And let's move directly to don't forget your 4 boosts. In addition, you get 4 ability boosts, all into different ability scores. So we want to get our wisdom up as high as possible. We also want to increase our charisma, which is also a secondary ability for clerics. And our constitution, we don't want that to be below average. And let's increase our dexterity. So we now have our final ability modifiers. We just add our pluses and minuses together and get these scores. These also translate to the traditional numbers of 3 to 18. So we are now going to go back to the class. Your hit points, you get 8 hit points from being a cleric plus your constitution modifier. So that is going to be added for every cleric level you have. And we are 1st level, of course, so that will be, because our constitution bonus is 0, that will be 8 hit points, and our maximum hit points will be 14. Then we go to the next section. This will be the sidebar in the core rulebook of initial proficiencies. And we bubble in our various proficiency levels. We are trained in perception. Then we are trained in fortitude saving throws, reflex saving throws, and we are expert in will saving throws. Fortitude is to avoid physical attacks such as poison, paralysis, and so on. And reflex is to dodge things like fireballs or arrow traps. Will is to resist mental attacks and fear. Then we get proficiencies in more skills. You are trained in religion as a cleric, and you are trained in 1 skill determined by your choice of deity. Let's choose our deity. So, POOG is a worshiper of fire, which we find on this list that Sarenrae is one of the worshippers, or one of the gods who has fire as a domain. So, we, as a worshipper of Sarenrae, you get a divine skill as a cleric. In this case, you are trained in medicine. Additionally, you are trained in 2 skills plus your intelligence modifier. So, because our intelligence bonus is modifier is -1, we have 1 additional skill, which we'll put in stealth. Then you are trained in various attacks. You are trained with simple weapons, with the favored weapon of your deity, which under Sarenrae is the scimitar, and you are trained with unarmed attacks. In addition, your defenses You are untrained in all armor, though your doctrine might alter this. We'll get to the doctrine. You are trained in unarmored defense. Then you are, for spells, trained in divine spell attacks and divine spell DCs. Spells in Pathfinder 2e are divided into 4 traditions. Divine, which is what clerics are, what they cast. Primal, which is what druids cast. Occult, which is what bards cast. And arcane, which is what wizards cast. Then there's going to be a table telling you what you get from level 1 through 20. At level 1, there are some things we've already gone through, which are Ancestry and background, and initial proficiencies, and deity. Next, you get divine spellcasting, which lets you get divine spells, and you get to prepare every morning during your preparations 5 cantrips of your choice from the entire list of cleric spells, and 2 spells from the first level divine spell list. In addition, you get a divine font, which is additional spell slots that are either heal spells or harm spells, and your deity will determine which of these you can choose. Some deities let you choose from either. In our case, Sarenrae requires that you choose heal spells. And you get a bonus number of these slots equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. In POOG's case, POOG will get 3 bonus heal spells per day. Lastly, you have a doctrine. This is cleric's versions of a subclass. There are 2 doctrines. The cloistered cleric, who is more focused on having potent magic and spell attacks that are hard for monsters to avoid, and the war priest, who gets some fighting abilities, and this is how you would get proficiency with armor at level 1. In our case, POOG will be a cloistered cleric, which at first level gives them the Domain Initiate cleric feat. The Domain Initiate lets you have a domain, lets you choose one of the domains provided by your deity, in our case, Sarenrae, and you learn the focus spell from that domain. Focus spells are use points from your focus pool. You have a focus pool of 1 point, and it's rechargeable. You can cast your spell, which is for the fire domain, Fire Ray, and after combat, you can refocus for 10 minutes and get your focus point back, and cast Fire Ray again. You will also want to choose your spells for your first adventuring day. We won't go through the process of reading through all of them, but on Archives of Nethys, under Divine Spells, you can see them organized by level. It's usually a good idea to have at least one attack spell that is a cantrip, since your spells are usually more accurate than your weapons. In our case, we can choose Daze and Divine Lance, which, it should be noted, does alignment damage. Because you are good aligned as POOG, a worshipper of Sarenrae, you can only damage evil creatures with good damage. Then POOG will take Light and Stabilize and Detect Magic. Then for his first level spells, he will choose Magic Weapon, which is a great buff at low levels, which almost doubles the damage that one of your marshals can deal, and also choose Bless, a nice buffing spell for your party. Next, we move on to equipment. For people starting out, if you don't like reading through long tables of items, you can easily start with the kit that comes with your class. Here, the cleric kits include caltrops, an adventurer's pack, which contains items like torches, bedroll, and a religious symbol. then options, your deity's favorite weapon, and possibly armor. We will not go through everything that you could buy, but I do want to give a couple of tips. When you are getting armor, in our case, POOG is not proficient in armor, but if you were to be proficient in armor, it's usually a good idea to get the total of your AC bonus from your armor and your dexterity cap to be as high as possible, 5 if possible, because you want to be as hard to hit as possible, and also as hard to critically hit as possible. You also, for weapons, it's very important to note that if you are have a higher dexterity than strength, you probably are looking at a weapon that has the finesse trait so that you can use your dexterity to determine whether you hit instead of your strength. If you are not using Path Builder or Wanderer's Guide or Hero Lab, and you'd like to do things by hand, and you're a stickler for detail, here is an example of what POOG could be getting now. Everything that is in regular type comes from the cleric's kit, and everything that's italicized is in addition. Another tip is to get a shield if you have a free hand. Shields are great for survivability at all levels. And healer's tools are a must if you are trained in medicine. And you generally want to have at least 2 people in your party trained in medicine, since non-magical healing is very powerful in Pathfinder 2e. A couple of things to note about bulk. You can carry up to 5 plus your strength modifier without being encumbered. Or actually, if in POOG's case, he has a 0 strength bonus, so starting at 5 bulk, he starts becoming encumbered. And items of light bulk, you add them together, and you never add them to your total until they total 10 light bulk. So, in this case, it is 4 bulk, 1, 2, 3, and 4, plus a bunch of light items that don't add up to 10, so he is carrying 4 bulk and is not encumbered. The last thing we'll do is to fill the rest. This is where we calculate the bonuses and key combat statistics for the character. Before doing that, it's important to understand how proficiencies work in Pathfinder 2e. They are all calculated the same way. You start with your ability modifier, whether that's strength, dexterity, charisma, and then you add your proficiency modifier, which is, if you are untrained, 0. If you are trained, it will be your level plus 2, and if you are expert, your level plus 4, and so on. Note that this includes your level. So when you level up, everything you're calculating now, if you are trained in it, will automatically go up as well. So on our character sheet, we copy over our ability modifiers to every skill that it corresponds to, our saving throws, our perception, our weapon attacks, and our armor class. So here I have copied over the ability modifiers, and I have also included the dexterity bonus for my crossbow because it's a ranged weapon, and dagger because it is a finesse weapon. I've also added their weapon damage and their relevant traits. Next, for everything that POOG is trained in, I'm going to add the number 3 because that is what a trained first level proficiency bonus is. So we'll do that. So I have done that, and also for the will saving throw, because he is expert, I added a 5. And I've done all the arithmetic, and you can see all of the skill bonuses are here. The armor class is 16. The saving throws are 3, 6, and 9. The perception bonus is +7. And +6 is the attack bonus for these weapons. On this sheet, it lets you put in the subsequent attack bonuses when they incur the multiple attack penalty, which is very convenient if you don't like to do math on the fly. So for the crossbow, you subtract 5 for your next attack and 10 for your last attack. The dagger, because it is an agile weapon, has a smaller penalty of -4 and -8. So these bonuses become +2 and -2. Oh, and another thing I almost forgot. POOG has a steel shield. So those stats go here. It would give them a +2 armor class bonus, and it has a hardness of 5 and 20 hit points, and a broken threshold of 1/2 of that. So here is the final written character sheet. There's a few fields I filled in that I forgot to do earlier. He is Chaotic Good, which is one of the allowed alignments for Sarenrae. If you have a religious character such as a cleric or a champion, your character needs to be one of the allowed alignments for that deity. So here is a PDF of POOG that I created using Hero Lab Online, which I have a subscription to. You can download it in the video description, and we'll also get to see POOG in action when he joins his first adventure with Mauricio and Valeros in exploring a cemetery and hunting down a necromancer. So that will be fun, and I hope this video was helpful. If you want to start making your own characters, you can download one of the character sheets that I've linked to in the description. And also there are excellent digital tools as well. There is Path Builder, which is available for Android and also has a web-based version, and there's Wanderer's Guide, and those are free. So I hope the video was helpful. I hope it demystifies Pathfinder 2e character creation and can start opening up the whole rich variety of characters you can start making with the system. Finally, please like and subscribe and leave comments. I love to engage with the community. It motivates me to make more videos, and I hope to make more videos and create more tools that people can use to learn the system and also encourage their friends to try it out. So thank you for watching.